And welcome back to Street Switch Photography for another meeting down at Melton Borough Council. This is a planning committee. This is all to do with a children's home. Now, we talk about privilege and things like that and people not wanting things in their back garden. This particular area called Wills Close has now got planning permission been put in at number 2 for a 5-bedroomed children's home. So for underprivileged children to be living in the house with 2 carers. Now, that would be 3 children plus 2 carers. I've actually been up to the property and had a look around. There's been concerns about the character of the area as described in one of the objections by Mr. Rajesh, I think his name is, or something like that. And there's been a couple of other issues as well. Let's take a look at what's actually been said down at Melton Borough Council. And if ever you've seen somebody that's so privileged and so high up the greasy pole that doesn't want something in their back garden, in my opinion, this is it. Let's crack on. Is that playing? We don't seem to have any sound. One
So
second.
this
Here we go.
application is brought to Planning Committee as it has been called in by Councillor Ian Atherton, and it has received 25 public objections which are summarised in the report. There are also
25.
objections received by local ward members on the grounds of need and parking. Highways and Environmental Health have been consulted and have confirmed that they have no objections. The summary of consultation responses are set out in the report at paragraph 6.4.
So this is just basically to show you exactly what it is, what the plans are. They do not have to apply for planning permission. They could just put a certificate in for C2 usage, and that'd be it. The residents wouldn't have a say, but the company involved has actually applied for planning permission out of, in my opinion, courtesy.
The proposed development is considered to comply with policies SS1, C2, IN2 and D1 of the Melton Local Plan. Next slide, please. So this is the site location plan, identifying the 2-storey detached dwelling located within the main urban area of Melton Mowbray. The site is bound by residential development to the north, east and west, and an open area of green is to the south. The Melton Learning Hub is located to the southwest of the site, indicated on the map to the right of the screen, within the red circle, on the corner of Burton Road and Baldock's Lane. Next slide, please.
So this is the property in question with the big red arrow above it. This big piece of grass in front of it is classed as private land. Just over here, to the left, is the Learning Hub. It's got off-street parking, 2 garages, 2 spaces for cars on the front, and obviously I've been up there and had a look. I took a ride up there, had a look around. It was on a Tuesday, the busiest day of the week. Obviously it's going to be busier when people are being collected from school and things like that. We all have to put up with this, with schools in our area and everything else, with traffic. Well, we've just had a bypass built that sort of solves that problem. And I think the people of this area are just basically being a little bit toffee-nosed. And that's my opinion. And if people don't like it, well, tough shit. I would say swap them with the West Avenue house and have the immigrants move up there and have the children move into West Avenue. So there's a suggestion which I very much doubt they'll take on board.
It is proposed to change the use of a C3 dwelling to a C2 children's home. It is situated on a private drive off Wallis Close with 2 other large detached dwellings as shown on the screen. The relevant site is the central dwelling highlighted by the red arrow. The existing property has 5 bedrooms and an integral double garage. There is also off-street parking.
So that'd be parking if you wanted for 4 vehicles, 2 in the garage, 2 on the front.
For 2 vehicles to the front of the dwelling. Just to highlight here, there are no changes proposed to the external appearance of the dwelling, and therefore the proposal accords with policy D1 of the local plan. Members have asked why this application is for a formal change of use, when other children's homes operators have applied for a certificate of lawfulness instead. It is essentially up to the operator as to which approach they take, but often Ofsted prefer a formal change of use permission.
Now, I just would like to point out there's many residents around Melton that have noticed a big demographic change in their area, and they didn't get a say in that. All these new homes have been built, and they didn't even get to go down to a meeting for any form of planning permission or anything. So 3 children that have been underprivileged living in a 5-bedroomed house in quite a well-to-do area, I think, is an excellent idea. And if any properties come up for sale down there, I suggest the company whip them up and put more children in them.
A certificate of lawfulness is considered on the basis of whether a material change of use is proposed on the evidence submitted.
So they didn't have to put in any form of planning permission for this whatsoever, but they have anyway.
This is a matter of law, fact, and degree. Sometimes, even where a change would not be considered material, the operator would prefer to have the use more formally established through a change of use permission to use Class C2. This is covered in more detail in the Council's planning guidance note for children's homes. In this case, the applicant and future operator has told us in their planning statement.
So what I would like to do is take you to one of the residents, and as to the reason that they don't want this application to go through, that they don't want these 3 children living in that area because of the characteristics of the area and the problems with parking and all the rest of it. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about the real reason they don't want this in their area. This is Julie. Here's me Julie. Looks like they're having problems. Is this person trained to even work a computer? Be fucked if we had a scientific calculator. So, before this even starts, you can see these photos here. That just here is the learning hub. So this isn't even the street that they're particularly talking about. This is off the road. So the road would come down here. This is the learning hub, and they're dropping off 30 odd children to school and things like that. Obviously number plates blanked out. That's obviously a rubbish truck, which we all get. We all get that in our area. Rubbish has to be collected. But when it's posh rubbish, I'm not too sure. And this is what they're complaining about, all this parking. Now, I would question when these photos were actually taken. Was there an event going on at the school? Was there something happening at the school over a weekend or something like that? That doesn't seem to have been answered. So just take a look at this.
Are you okay? This is your presentation, presumably, Julie, so you're ready to go?
Yes.
So we've got 3 minutes. Not that it's on a clock, really, but...
So what we've got here is people dropping the kids off to school and a waste disposal truck. To me, that is no evidence whatsoever of any parking problems. This happens on every estate with a school on it, every single day of the week, minus Saturdays and Sundays, unless there's an event going on. So what makes these people so special that they can stop 3 underprivileged children, having a half-decent life? That's the question I would ask.
If you could go for 3 minutes, that would be great. We'll give you a warning when it's time to wind up. Okay, thank you, Julie.
Good evening, everyone. I live at Wallace Close and I'm speaking on behalf of local residents. I want to begin by making one point absolutely clear. Our objection is not to children in care. Every child deserves a safe and supportive home.
They want to make that clear. Every child deserves a supportive home, as long as it's not in their back garden. This is typical.
The issue before you tonight is whether the committee has sufficient evidence to justify approval of this particular site. We submit that it does not. First,
Very well
the
spoken.
policy assessment is incomplete. The officer's report relies on policy C2, which is primarily a housing policy. The report doesn't explain why a children's home falls within the policy objectives, whether loss of a C3 family dwelling has been properly considered, or whether a children's home is equivalent to the care homes envisaged by the policy when written. These are important planning matters, yet the reasoning is not explained. We believe policy C2 should not be used in support of this application. Second, the report refers to a county-wide shortage of children's placements, but planning permission is not granted simply because there is a general need. It must be demonstrated that this particular site is suitable, and that assessment has not been made. Planning permission should be based.
Now, assessments. I rode up there, I had a look around on the busiest day of the week, at probably one of the busiest times of the Tuesday, and it was very quiet. Just saying, if that classes as an assessment, it doesn't. But it was a very quiet area, and I very much doubt that 3 children are going to have such a massive impact on the area and its character and parking and all the other tripe that these people are coming out with, all because they don't want it in their back garden. This is privilege, in my opinion, and I don't care again what people think or say.
Not only on need, but on a thorough assessment of site-specific impacts. We do not believe that assessment has been adequately undertaken. Third, the officer's report underestimates the impact on residential amenity. The officer's report concludes movements associated with carers and social workers would not exceed a typical 5-bedroomed house.
So can I just ask a question? Kings Road, for example, has lots of children around that area. It gets lots of children dropped off at the school every day of the week. Do the residents of that area put in for any form of planning permission that should not be up there? Do they sit and complain about it in the offices and everything else? No, because they live in the real world. They're not classed as what I would call privileged middle class people, champagne socialists, whatever you want to call them. I don't care what you call them, but yeah, you don't really get a say as to what planning permission goes forward, especially if it's an illegal HMO like on Thorpe Road. An 8-bed illegal HMO. No planning permission, nothing. And these people are worried about 3 kids. Just saying.
That is a planning judgment. There is no evidence supporting it and no comparison made between ordinary family trips and those associated with the children's care home operating 24 hours a day. The proposed C2 use introduces a level of activity and operational intensity that is materially different from the C3 use it would replace. The report simply states it is comparable. That is conclusion rather than analysis. We believe the C2 use.
And 9 times out of 10, Ken and Barbie, 9 times out of 10, the conclusion is correct.
Will materially alter the character and function of the surrounding area. 4.
Did I hear that correctly? To the character of the area. What exactly do they mean by that? The character of the area. Aren't these children good enough to be there? Are they not high enough class? What do they mean by that? Because that would be very interesting to ask that question down at the offices, wouldn't it?
Parking and highway impacts have not been fully examined.
No parking or highway
Residents
impacts.
Have repeatedly raised concerns about existing parking issues, yet the report relies heavily on the Highway Authority response and one single site visit. It does not fully reflect or represent the day-to-day conditions. Most importantly, 2 significant site-specific matters have been omitted. The first is the learning hub directly opposite the site. The hub accommodates 32 children daily. And
there you go. 32 kids go to that learning hub. I don't know if they're underprivileged, special needs. I don't know what the learning hub is, but I know that there's another school very close by that's basically for special needs children and things like that. There's 3, I believe there's 3 schools around that area.
Has significant activity and traffic movements, yet the report assesses this proposal as though Wallace Close was simply a quiet residential cul-de-sac. It is not. The second is the shared driveway arrangements with 1 and 3 Wallace Close. Increased vehicle movements will have direct impact on neighbouring residents, yet there is no detailed assessment of those implications.
Like I say, if you've got a picture of a waste wagon and people dropping the kids off at school, or maybe it might have been an event or something like that, I'd be asking questions as to when these photos were actually taken and how relevant they are.
Members, this isn't a question of whether children's homes are needed. It is a question of whether you have been given a complete and robust assessment of this site when 2 significant site-specific matters have not been fully assessed and important conclusions have been reached without detailed supporting analysis. We submit the evidence is not sufficient to justify approval.
Now, the first thing I noticed about this lady that was talking is she's very well spoken. She's obviously done her research. She's obviously doesn't want this in her area. As you can see, the people sat behind her as well. They don't want it in their area. It's a typical not in my back garden, but if it was anywhere else, we'd agree with it. These are the types of people that we have.
Julie, thank you.
you.
Perfect timing. Well done. Thank you. Okay, Julie, if you're happy, we now have the time.
So now it's time for Councillor Pip Olnett. Now, me and Pip have got a bit of history. I don't agree with everything he says, but here he is actually making sense of everything he comes out with. Now, again, I can do nothing but agree with what he says here. Again, I would question when these photos were actually taken, where they were taken, because, yeah, it looks like just any other street when people are picking kids up from school or there's an event on. And again, local residents haven't had any say whatsoever in HMOs. So what makes this lot so special?
Either glad or sad you have finished your time in the table. You may sit down, and we'll now move on to Councillor Pip Olnett, who's got the next session. Your time, Pip. Tell me when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Chair. I
Thank
fully
you.
understand the genuine concerns and fears of local residents who object to this application.
What fears? Why would they fear 3 children? And as I said, look at the back. They're the people that have put in the complaints.
I have circulated a note
They look
to
lower
committee
class to you?
members of my broader views in accordance with procedure rules, and I support the application because the legitimate concerns of residents have been adequately addressed, in my view, by the planning analysis and by the conditions attached to their
100%.
recommendation. The house is already a 5-bedroom house and there's no change proposed. If it was in private hands of an ordinary family, it could have many more children than 3, actually, and may I say, many more cars, a bit like the programme Butterflies.
So what he's pointing out there is basically it's 3 children, 2 adults living in a house for underprivileged kids. That would be no different to having a normal family living there. No different at all.
If you remember that far back.
It's down to
concerns
privilege.
We all have over concentration of too many children's homes and too many children do not apply, in my view, to this particular application. Parking and other issues are also susceptible to other measures outside the remit of this committee, and therefore I don't believe that one dwelling should be penalised because of other existing problems on other properties, however good they are. The definition of need has been established, well established, in other applications, and based on planning issues alone, I suggest that refusal now will in fact be overturned at appeal because of the consideration of purely planning applications regulations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Pip. I know you know what the procedure is now, so I'll pass over to the council members.
So basically what Pip was actually saying there was there will be no impact at all as if a normal family was living there. Now, people do come up in this meeting trying to say, well, there's going to be problems with parking, there's going to be problems with this, there's going to be problems with that. The fact is, no, there isn't. Not any more than what there already is. And again, they keep mentioning the character of the area, which in my opinion is just, yeah, it's just privileged. Like I say, other people that live in Melton in less posh areas, if you want to put it like that, don't get a say. So that's Councillor Sharon Butcher. I think she voted against it because it's her constituent. We'll go here and see what actually happens.
Okay, so that we've now entered the stage where everybody who was wishing to speak has spoken. And so we now move into the situation where we move into debate on the subject, and councillors.
Now, this is the part I haven't heard.
Obviously, the proposal from the officers is that there is no reason for it to be rejected. If there's anybody who feels there
isn't a reason.
I think now would be the good.
Lee Higgins pointed out there is no reason for it to be objected because they could have just gone ahead with it and done it anyway. But they have had the thought, well, what we'll do is we'll do it properly. We'll put in for the planning permission and we'll do it properly because we can't see any problems with this whatsoever. So,
time to actually speak up and start.
Now, if it was a 5-bed HMO, housing of multiple occupancy for, let's just say, illegal immigrants, and there were 5 unchecked male men living in that area, then there'd be a problem. You know what I mean? But it isn't. It's 3 underprivileged kids. So how would they react if it was illegal migrants? As I said, a suggestion, change the ones from West Avenue down there and move the kids up to West Avenue. As that, there's a park straight across the road, a couple of decent schools around the area, a big play field, a big football thing there. Excellent.
To debate the key subjects, which obviously are weighing the material benefit of having a children's home for vulnerable children against the impact that development would have. It's a question of weighing those two things up. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Allen
Before I
White.
start, I want to make it absolutely clear. I support children's homes, and especially children's.
Why do they keep doing that? I just want to make it absolutely clear. I support children's home. I support them 100%. These children need somewhere to go, as long as it's not in my back garden.
Homes of
Privileged.
This type, because it to allow children that have gone through a lot of trauma to be brought up in something close to a home environment is vitally important.
Bang on.
And that's entirely consistent with the ministerial statement, which is really our biggest guideline for when we're looking at these, which recognises the importance of providing a home environment in which they can thrive. But it then goes on to add that wherever possible, enabling them to remain close to their own communities, schools, families, support networks, etc. That means the location of the children's home is not simply a commercial matter. It's a question of meeting the local need, that we've got enough places for those children to have a place.
Now, where this home is actually situated is absolutely perfect. It's not far from town, so it's close to public transport, it's close to the doctors, it's close to all sorts of facilities that they could use.
Near to their place, where that's possible, because obviously it's not always possible. So that need, unfortunately, as we've talked about, the County Council doesn't give us any real guidance on this at all. But if I take what the applicant has actually provided, which is saying that, well, they believe there's a need for at least 700 or 750, 726, it was the number that's been quoted, but I'm sure that grows on a daily basis, that's how many children's home places are needed across the county. Now, not all of those are going to be residential homes like this that needs it. So taking that as a starting point, if I take that and try and extrapolate that out, that there's 734,000 people in Leicestershire, 53,000 people in Melton Borough, which is 8%. So that's something like 58 places are needed within Melton Borough. So, and there's give and take. Some are inside into the county, some are outside.
A quick good evening to Chrissy Boy, who's watching at the moment, and 4 other people. I can see the comments. Please feel free to comment.
County. So that's, let's say 60
And like
places
and
are needed
subscribe.
in the county. And like I said, not all of those are necessarily for residential need. So wanting to understand where we stood, the research I did was basically to look at the planning applications that have gone through for children's homes. And you might be as surprised as I was to find out that this is the 19th application for a children's home, 18 of which have been approved. Mostly, well, half of them are certificates of lawfulness. Half of them have gone through.
So that isn't 18 applicants, is it? If it's just a certificate, not all of them have applied for planning permission because they didn't have to. So that's a little bit misleading to say it's 18.
Planning applications. 2 or 3 of those.
So they wouldn't have been approved either. So what's the real number?
Have come before this committee. So if you take that, those only the new ones. I don't know what was existing before because I can't really find that out. But that is saying 2 to 3 children per each application. That's somewhere between 40 and 50 places that this borough has actually approved in the last 3.5 years.
Now, when he says borough, he doesn't mean just the centre of Melton. He means the whole of the Charnwood borough. So using like, you know, trying to make it sound worse than it actually is, in my opinion.
Need 58 places. So that makes, in my view, the issue of local need a significant planning consideration. It also raises the wider concern around the half of those homes that have been put forward by certificates of lawfulness and whether they've had the same sort of consideration.
Go on then, tell us how many certificates of lawfulness were actually within that 18. What was it, 17?
That this application has been going through, because I don't believe they have. Whilst the certificate of lawfulness is a different legal purpose from a planning application, the cumulative effect is that it's a significant proportion of the number of places that we need to provide. So the principle, in my view, ensuring that the right development is provided in the right place is one of the fundamental purposes of the planning team and the planning system, rather. And children's homes shouldn't be any exemption to that. My point is not that we shouldn't resist children's homes, quite the opposite. We should then support them where they are needed and where they're in the right locations. However, I do believe that as a planning authority, we should give far greater weight to the evidence of local need, because it's been mentioned many times before, but it's always been pushed back. But I do think it's got to be taken into consideration, especially when we're taking local applications like this.
3 years, so 10% a year. So no one, including George, I think, can predict what the need will be next month. We don't know it. We can't predict that. So, and we can't predict.
Quick question. Is it a good thing that children that are underprivileged can actually lead something close to a normal life? Morally. Is it morally correct or morally incorrect because somebody doesn't want them living next to them even though they don't know who they are or anything about the backgrounds? Would that apply to illegal migrants? These are children, bearing in mind. There's so many questions you could ask about this.
Whether it's in Melton or not, it's just not possible. So legally, you're on very thin ground if you just focus on the local side. I would say if you're on the parking side, that's a totally different, and the safety aspect, that's a totally. But I can only advise committee members, and I'll pass you over to Sarah at the moment. If we just go on that one alone, we're on thin ice. Sorry, but that's the truth. Not say, and you cannot say as an officer, is something that would uphold it being rejected.
Or any other geographical restriction that members may wish to consider.
Thank you, Sarah.
Excuse me, Chair. So I'm going to have to leave the chamber shortly.
Yeah, very short.
So I appreciate that means I won't be able to take part in the vote, but I will be returning. Apologies.
Thank you very much, Councillor James Mason.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just say, I echo Councillor Waite's comments on children's home. They're needed. We need them. The children need them more than we do, and that's where and that's my starting point. However, with regard to need and local need, although we talk about, and Councillor Thwaites talked about it, the 726 children, and that's the page of the book. Obviously, people have seen that. That comes from the sufficiency statement. And
again, I'd like to know exactly how many of them were actual planning applicants, how many of them applied for planning permission.
At page 60,
that's a little misleading.
Statement, and that is, and they have to produce that within the Children's Act 1989. That's what it says in the blurb, and it does say, and it's for children or young people under their care who cannot live at home under circumstances, etc., etc., etc. And it's there to. And
what do I mean by underprivileged children? Basically, let's just say, for example, a 9-year-old is living at home and both of the parents are alcoholics or drug addicts or something along those lines. Social services have got involved. They're not capable of looking after the child because they're violent. That child needs somewhere to go to be safe and to experience some type of normality. This is what these homes provide. And this is what these people are trying to stop.
And the best interest to be accommodated within the local area in order to stay at the same school or near to other family. Now, the whole of the application, as I read it, is predicated on a local need, because that's what the application says. So I've judged it on local need. Chair, I'd like to propose a deferment on the basis that I don't believe that the a sufficiency statement and the statement of need as presented by the applicant sufficiently covers the local need, and I think I've explained what the local need, I believe, why it is materially applicable. That I like, until such times as we get more information from Leicestershire County Council on what is the need, not only within Melton but across the borough.
The need is for underprivileged children to live something close to a normal life so they can get education, they can lead an average everyday life under the care of people that know, that are fully trained, that know what they're doing under the rule of Ofsted and social services.
So we can help each other across the borough. I'm more than happy to do that. But I do believe we need a deferment so we get more information. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just say, and you're more than entitled to do that. I know that the officers asked for more information from Leicester County Council, and they said on a case by planning application or planning application, they would not comment.
Just come back to that one. I'm not. So I believe.
Typical of Leicester Council.
We need a statement from them on the current need across the borough, including this borough, not just associated with this application.
That's nothing to do with this application, what's happening elsewhere across other boroughs.
No, so we've got a seconder for deferment. So Councillor Elaine Holmes has seconded that. Right, is there any, go straight to the vote on a deferment? Oh, Clive.
1 minute.
Joe, I think it'd be helpful that if you're going to defer to seek that information, what is the purpose of doing that and what is the idea behind that in terms of a policy framework to which we can apply that?
Interesting.
You've been asked a question, so of course you'll reply.
Thank you. The reason for it is quite simple. That within the application, the whole application is based on a local need, and we need to establish what that local need is. The policy has already been established.
The local need is kids need a home. Could it be much more technical or simple, should I say?
I believe through the ministerial statements and through the planning, chief planning officer statement, and the purpose of the sufficiency statement that's given by the local authority under the Children's Act. I believe that establishes it, and that's why we need better information based on that, based on those principles.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Mason. So is there anybody who's willing to second? Oh, I know, Clark. You can come back in a second. Let's just see if we've got a seconder first. Because
Is that how it
you were
works?
willing to do.
I'm quite happy to second, and that's
Okay.
why I made this little statement, because I do care about young people, and I do feel that we want to get it absolutely right. And if we
Okay.
haven't got it quite right, then let's defer it. Thank you.
Wanted to come back again.
In the absence of a policy in our local plan that says there is a need to prove, that the applicant must prove need, there is no basis on which we can reject it on the basis of need. Just because the applicant's put those words in the application doesn't create a policy requirement to do so. So members cannot take the wording of the application, determine that it must that it is defeating itself because they've looked at some figures
Sorry about
which
the noise,
they
that's
don't
my chair.
believe adds up. We don't have a policy basis which we can refuse that on. So I can't see the point in going through this process.
Well done to him.
Yep. Can I just say, obviously, you're a committee. I'm the chair. It's for the committee to determine. It's up to you. Well, I've already made it very clear that I think local need is not a policy that we can forward, but that doesn't stop you from deciding to defer it because you feel you haven't sufficient information. That's your decision, not mine. And if we want to put it to the vote, then we just put it to the vote. But you've had the officer's opinion on this local need, and you've had the legal thing. So it's up to us now to go to the vote. Unless anybody else wants to speak, let's put it to the vote. So the proposal is, do you want to say it again, James? If you just say it so that people know exactly what the reasons why you want to do.
The reason is that
Because they like to fanny about.
I believe the committee hasn't the information to make a decision on the need of this application, and we need the advice from the Leicestershire County Council on the need for this application, because that's what it says in the ministerial letter, the Chief Planning Officer's letter, and also the sufficiency statement of the local authority themselves.
Nope, that's fine. You've read it.
And can I just say, in answer, then, if that is the case, then, and this council has no policy on it, then this whole thing becomes moribund, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Let's just go for what you've gone for, just not confuse the situation. So, do you want to speak, Marilyn? Yes, sir.
Yeah, could we also add something to do with them to look at the parking problem as well for Leicestershire County Council, so that that doesn't go by the by? We do.
There isn't a parking problem from what would be if there was just a normal family there with 3 kids. There's no parking problem. That's just basically what the local residents have come up with.
Need to have something done about the parking.
Would you be acceptable to add that to it, James, finding out more comments from the highways?
More than happy, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Once again, in terms of the purpose of doing this, we have an application on which the County Council have raised no concerns. And if we're talking about the existing parking problem, then that obviously again isn't a matter for this committee to determine, because the county, if they see fit, can make provision and enforce that.
Yeah, I've been around planning long enough to know that it's up to the committee. They don't have to accept the highways, report and all the rest of it. And clearly that is the view of you as a proposer. So we'll add in concerns about highways to it, because we're deferring, we're not making a decision on the planning application. This is just a simple deferment. It's different to actually rejecting it. So if everybody's happy, I'm looking around, can we now have a vote? Those in favour of deferring? Oh, yep, very quickly, Marilyn, very quickly.
Yeah, Yeah, because when the county council, when the officers came round perhaps to see it, they probably didn't see it on the days when it's so full with the hub and all the other things that's going on there. So
I was there on one of the busiest days of the week at one of the busiest times, around 9-10 o'clock. It wasn't that busy, which is why I'd question when them photographs were actually taken.
we could actually ask them to find out when the time to come, when it's all, when all
Yep,
the parking is,
okay.
yeah.
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, Marilyn. Yes, we'll do that. Okay, so let's go for the vote. So I've already made the motion, which is
The mayor
for
doing an
deferment
excellent job, I must
of this
say.
application to a future meeting with more information about the local need and the planning highways issues. Those in favour of deferring this application at this moment, please put their hands up. How many got? That's 4. Is it 4? That's 4. Thank you. Those against? Four against. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I am abstaining at that stage, but I now have no choice as the chairman but to make a decision because it's now my casting vote. I think that a deferment is not required. I think, therefore, we go forward and we have a choice now, therefore, being the committee have put it this way, of either rejecting this application or voting in favour of it. So I'm looking around the room now.
And what I'd like to say is I'm going to remind you exactly what it is they're voting on. They're voting on the future of 3 young children that are from an underprivileged background being moved into a rather posh, rather well-to-do area, into a 5-bedroomed house, and the local residents do not want them there. They're trying to come up with things like parking. They're trying to come up with other things and bits and bobs. You can go and watch the full meeting over on the Melton Borough Council YouTube channel. So let's get the vote.
I don't think deferment will do us any good.
Tried
That's
to
my view
defer
as a
it.
chair, and therefore I'll be voting against deferment. So that's 5-4, which means we will not defer. I'm now looking around the room saying, please, can we have another proposer for either putting it through? Yes, Councillor Lee Higgins, thank you.
I'm going to do
Nice one, Lee Higgins.
a proposal just as yet, but yes, in terms of parking, and I think from what the legal officer was saying is the county council highways would have just come back with the advice that they've given, so that's the reason I thought that would fail. I think we've got to look at the policies here, and I asked a question: if this succeeds and gains planning permission, is there a condition we can put on the applicant in relation to working with the immediate neighbours to avoid any potential either antisocial behaviour or building healthier communities?
You get antisocial behaviour everywhere. Doesn't matter what housing estate you're on, it doesn't matter where you are, you're always going to end up with some form of antisocial behaviour. Not always children. But again, I'd like to point out that there are illegal HMOs in Melton, Swan Close, Thorpe Road, other places, where there's been no planning permission put in whatsoever. None of the residents of the area have been informed that these places are there. They've got men, not children, men from different alien countries that do not abide by our rules or look at people in the same way, and they don't get a say in it. So what makes this area so special that they want to stop 3 underprivileged children moving into the area to lead some type of normal life?
Yes, if that's a condition. Just looking at this, the only information that I think we're lacking is we've talked about at this committee about clustering of care homes in a particular area. If the officers can confirm if there's any clustering in the immediate
Hello to my brother, Aaron.
Vicinity.
Nice to see you, mate.
Concentration, yeah, that would be fine, yeah.
Okay, 2 questions for Sarah, I believe. Oh, Amy's going to take this.
Just to first touch on the condition. Just in terms of the relationship with the neighbours, the management plan does actually cover the complaints procedure, which covers the neighbours. I don't know whether you've had a chance to review that document and review the complaints procedure. As the agent mentioned, that is quite standard across all children's homes, and that management plan is secured by condition 2.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Chair. So on that, and what I'm sort of thinking is,
shall we see if it gets voted through?
The second question. Sorry, Amy. What was the second question?
It was what
to the planning committee, as colleagues, other councillors will know, and I've listened carefully.
And I think, as Councillor Mason says, I think we may have to take this outside of the planning chamber to put more pressure on the county council in regards.
Could be a basis, and that if we can put that forward,
Councillor,
that probably they haven't seen that.
I think
So
everybody. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Can I have a wee? Excuse the shit on my
I
hand.
think it's a bit disgraceful that we haven't got
Paint.
a policy of our own.
I'd agree entirely, Elaine, and this is where maybe the local plan needs to be revisited, but unfortunately it's going through as we speak. It's too late now, but we need to try and sort something out. Guidance from Cabinet is not enough. It needs to be a law.
So I'm going to try and find out what happened there.
As it is, there is nothing in planning law to stop this application.
if we can put that forward,
Councillor,
that probably they haven't seen that.
I think
So
everybody,
to
I hope
reduce.
everybody around the room, I think Councillor Gordon knows your concerns, and I appreciate their reasonable concerns, but we have a proposal for acceptance, and like everybody in the room, I'm interested to see how this goes. Okay, so
Here it
unless
comes.
anybody else wants to speak, we will now vote on the substantive motion, which is to accept the officer's
Iranu.
recommendation that the planning application is accepted. Okay, those in favour, please show your hands.
My brother just saying he likes my t-shirt, Northern Soul Mods, mate.
Oh no. I can see what's coming. That's 4, isn't it, Lee? Thank you. Those again, a law.
So does the mayor get the say? Oh, they're leaving. Oh dear. Is that a my job here is done?
Yeah, thank you very much, committee, for that. We'll now move on to agenda item 5.
So there you have it.
Implementation of the
Planning permission accepted by the looks of it. It's going to be spoken about outside the chamber about other things that can and cannot happen. They did not have to apply for planning permission. At the end of the day, this is about 3 underprivileged children that need somewhere to live. Again, example, a child living in a house where both parents are either drug addicts or alcoholics or something like that, where social services have visited and taken the child away from that property. That child deserves the best start in life, the same as any other child does. Now, this area that they want to move them to is quite a privileged area. You've got different types of people down there, different demographics, as you could see by the video feed there, and they objected to it. It's the typical, I would say, lefty narrative, as long as it's not in our back garden. Put them up somewhere like, I don't know, Colditz, Fairmead, wherever, you know. And this to me is not surprising. This is a Green Party trick, usually. But as I said before, it does look like these kids are actually going to get somewhere to live. And in what a nice area. I couldn't think of anywhere better to put them myself. This has been Street Switch Photography. If you like this video or this live feed, like and subscribe. Go and hit the notification bell. On Friday evening, there's a scooter meet down in town on King's street in the centre of town. I may go down to it. I don't know. I'm still waiting to find out whether the Reform are in town on Saturday. If they're not, I'll be doing some street photography, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Goodbye for now and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye for now.